Alright, hello everyone. I am going to talk about the third part of my project, the failure modes and effect analysis. I have, for a Westinghouse pressurized water nuclear reactor, um, I have kind of narrowed down my system a little bit. I'm going to look, I think, primarily at components inside the reactor vessel. Not all the components, there are thousands, and a lot of them are repetitive, but it's some of the main ones, including like fuel pellets, fuel rods, fuel assemblies, um, things like what's known as the spring clip grid assembly as part of the fuel assembly, which could fail. Um, Looking at things like O-rings. Then I'm looking at the reactor coolant system as well. So those the big components there that could fail are like the reactor coolant pump, the steam generator, the pressurizer. Uh, yeah, a lot of places the pressurizer can fail, and just general. I kind of put down if you had a gross failure of the reactor coolant system. Uh, it's still not going to be too bad as long as you have a good containment structure, and the probability of it's pretty low and the detectability of it's pretty low, or the detectability of it's pretty high. So that number actually only came out to a 120 if you had a gross failure, which is lower than some of the components internally that I analyzed. But I don't know, maybe that was in me being an idiot or something. But a lot of the other ones were a lot harder to detect, so they got pushed up on the things that we need to look at, which I guess is probably reasonable because an RCS gross failure is very unlikely. Um, then the next system, the main system, and the final system is the containment slash isolation. So that includes the entire housing for the reactor vessel. That's yeah, it's the whole containment building. And some of the things that you have to look at on the containment building are things like, are they designed to stand up to a hurricane? Are they designed to stand up to a tornado? Are they designed to stand up to a tsunami, for example? And one of the things I found is that they actually are not designed to stand up to tsunamis, at least for this specific reactor that I was looking at. It was not designed, even though it was on the ocean, to stand up to large waves. And they did not include, uh, they explicitly said that we do not analyze the system for at the time when you could have a hurricane and or high winds, so anything with high winds, so a hurricane or a tornado, and a seismic event. So if you had an earthquake at the same time as a tornado, they haven't run the calculations to see if that would fail or not. Now I'm guessing that they're built in, and they say that they build in huge margins of safety, so like the probability that shaking is going to affect its ability to stand up to wind is probably pretty small. But those are things that could be addressed. Um, hmm, yeah, this is actually in here is where I had the biggest one, the biggest, most potential risk. I got a 400 uh, on the hydrogen detection and suppression system, which is there to remove hydrogen gas and oxygen gas in the case that it's built up or in the case that the core partially melts. Um, and so the failures there are detection failure, so it doesn't detect that hydrogen has been released. A ventilation system failure, so it can't vent the hydrogen or the oxygen if it detects that they're there. And a hydrogen recombiner failure, so the hydrogen and the oxygen get pushed through the system but then cannot be combined into water properly. And if that happens and they get recirculated back as hydrogen and oxygen, so it's effectively a net zero process. And on the detection failure, that came out as a 400. I gave it a severity of 10, a detectability of 8, and a 5 probability of occurrence because, I don't know. I just kind of was like, I feel like the probability of it is fairly low, but at the same time, the only time it's going to happen is if there's some crazy shit already going on in the reactor. So there could already be in meltdown conditions, electrical systems could be on backup, things could be going wrong already. So there could be an electronic failure there. So anyway, yeah, that's what I did with my FMEA. Uh, yeah, any questions, put them in the comments. I don't know if our professor set up the website for that yet. I just emailed him about that. Yeah.